This is the first day of the January 96 7-day retreat in Springwater. Usually on the first day of a retreat, we talk about listening, wondering whether there can be a new kind of listening. Right now, not in theory. Talking about it doesn't just mean theory and words and abstractions, but as we're talking about listening, can there be a new listening? Not just to the words that are spoken, but also to the reactions that come up within oneself. Really wondering what are these words pointing at? What do they mean in the deepest sense? Is it possible to see directly what words refer to? And at the same time, non-verbal awareness of the breathing that is going on in each one of us. Not trying to control it, to make it deep breathing or yogic breathing. Just to see it as it comes and goes. Is that possible? That's listening freshly. Listening, seeing, these are interchangeable words referring to one whole perception of what is happening. The sounds in this room, the sounds, no matter where. Breathing is a sound. Distant traffic, creaking of chairs, heart beating, a fan kicking out, kicking in, stomach gurgling. Is it possible to listen what is happening without needing to bring oneself in relationship with it? I like it, I don't like it, I can hear it, I can't hear it, I'm good at it, others are better. This is this constant process of bringing oneself in relationship with what is going on, which breaks up the unbrokenness of happenings, this moment. It's not easy to listen innocently, as it were. Talked about it last night, listening without needing returns, without needing to get something out of it, and to see the strength of that pattern, needing to get results for myself, needing to accomplish, to attain, to become better. Can that deep, voluminous pattern of of wanting to get something, wanting to become something, show up in this listening space, in this listening/looking space. Not to be gotten rid of or condemned or defended. Let those patterns also become visible. But just as something that is there and it's also not there. Because there's also air and space and sounds and silence. So for this new listening to click in, it needs to be awareness of habitual listening. And that's what we're going to look at right now. How do we listen habitually? This is for everyone to examine for oneself if one is interested. To come upon our conventional listening. Maybe right now in a relation with a first talk that is given. For people who have been here many times, has the thought arisen, or does it arise? I know what she's going to talk about this morning. It's about listening, it's about authority. That's what we always also usually look at. And as that thought comes up, does it do something? To the listening? Is there expectation feeding in or filtering in? Either wanting to hear what we already know or not wanting to hear what we already know. Different effects on the listening presence. It narrows it down, feeds it into a channel of expectation and like and dislike. Can that be perceived innocently? Because this is how we are, how we have come to be, conditioning each other from day one. To expect and to like what is remembered or dislike it. So is it possible right now to not expect? Seeing expectation is there as a program in all of us, but to listen beyond this program. Because the immediacy of listening openly is stronger than all programs. It can keep them in abeyance, shedding light and yet not being controlled by them. So, conventional, habitual programs are expectation, comparison, comparing what is said right now to what was said before, or what other people say, which is connected with evaluation. It's a good talk, better talk, not so good talk. We do this all the time. We are brought up to evaluate because we have been evaluated from day one. It's what one does with this existence. It confirms this existence if I can evaluate and judge someone in terms of liking or disliking. Establishes me in a position. Can we question that? I'm not saying believe it, accepted. It's all offered for examination, alone and together. Is the judging of someone setting me up in my existence? I don't mean as a setup, but it is a setup actually. Establishing, verifying, confirming that I'm here as somebody who can judge others. And if I judge them to be superior, I may identify with a superior person because that establishes me also as someone superior in the ambience of superior people. We like that sharing of that aura, idea aura. We love to tell each other what important people we may have known or met, because it enhances the feeling of our own existence in our own eyes and those of others. So judging has many facets. Evaluating someone as inferior sets me up as superior to someone inferior. And can we see, as these things happen, not just now in a talk, but as we relate to each other, have conversations with each other, that these patterns of expecting, comparing, evaluating with all their side effects do something to the immediacy and directness of communication and listening. They channel the flow or impede it, stop it up. And yet, noticing it without further judgment can set the flow in motion again, because awareness is operating. I'm using these words carefully, because awareness isn't exactly a thing or a state of mind. Don't know what it is. It is just bringing to light all the patterns that are operating in oneself and our relationship with each other. And by noticing, without judgment, there is no blockage. There's openness to look and listen and find out freshly. So at this moment of sitting here, a beautiful Sunday morning, lots of light from above and from below, the snow sheds light in an amazing way. The nights are never completely dark when the earth is covered with snow. Sitting here, together with people from many different places, many different occupations, ages. It's possible to listen quietly as no one special, which is everyone, to the breathing. It's not really listening to the breathing, it's listening in which breathing is palpable, it's there. So are all kind of physical sensations inner movements of tension or release, holding, walking, wanting, fearing, all of the physical accompaniments of emotions that wave through this body-mind. Leaving traces or having left traces of pressures. Maybe pressure on the chest or in the face, a headache. Often in the beginning people report a headache. So can it be listened to spaciously as just something that happens to be here at this moment? Not arresting it by worrying about it. It's there. And the breathing is happening, whether there's a headache or not, pressure in the chest or in the stomach, maybe tension in the muscles, here or there. Something we call pain, maybe in the back or knees, shoulders or wherever. All of this kaleidoscope of sensations and the sound of an airplane. Can it just be there, not listened to purposely? It is there in the openness of being, in the presence of words that point to this very listening in openness and spaciousness. One difficulty is that words are sequential. One cannot say everything at the same time. But being, happening, is not sequential. It's here, now, everything at the same time. And that cannot be expressed by words and cannot be captured in knowledge, because knowledge too is sequential. And yet it's happening every moment for each one of us. If only for a moment, this expecting, comparing, evaluating, remembering and associating human mind takes a pause in simple listening to its inner cacophony of feeling, sounds, and sensations. So another thing we always like to bring up the very, very first day of a retreat. No difference whether we're here for the first time or have been here for years and years. It's that whole topic of authority, which cannot be looked at or rediscovered often enough. Rediscovered every time it crops up. Establishing authority, wanting authority, and fighting authority. All of this goes together in us. Wanting authority, by that I mean wanting to be told what is true, what is right, what is the path to follow. Craving that. Since our earliest of days, wanting the security of another person or another institution to tell us what to do so we're safe, we won't go wrong, we will be protected, and we will get to the promised land. That may be too corny for us. Who wants the promised land? We're beyond that. And yet, just somebody this morning was coming for many years to this place and other places we've held retreat. Said it was so good last night to hear about this listening or being without expecting results. I noticed how much from old conditioning I want to attain, to accomplish, try and strain to get someplace, place of enlightenment. So how marvelous that it's possible for this whole compact pattern to come into view. The view not being a pusher towards something, it just illuminates what's there, and yet is beyond it, not of it. So, this pattern of wanting someone to tell me what to do, what is right and what is wrong and true and false, deeply established in each one of us, deeply. Not to negate it or deny it, rather to watch it. Maybe one says, I feel I'm beyond this, I don't need authority anymore, but not with that to give up looking or examining, because it is there, creeps up in amazing moments. Remember, a neighbor, very educated neighbor that we had where we lived before, loved the movie Space Odyssey. He went 5 times to see it in very short intervals. He said, it has something telling me what is going to happen to humanity. A tremendous desire to know, and an expected security in knowing what our past was, what our future will be. And somebody live to, a movie is really second best, but somebody live to tell me. It's amazing what questions people ask of me. Can't think of any right now. But when it happens, it's amazing. Sort of like questioning an oracle. As though what I said had some weight for their life. That's a poor way of using me, if you want to put it this way. I'm not an oracle. I cannot tell what the future will be. I have no déjà vu or clairvoyance abilities or capabilities. But I can look now. There's lots of energy to be here, together and alone, and see what's here now, without arresting it by making a problem out of it, or assuming it'll be like this forever, or even next moment. Next moment can already be free of the anxiety of this moment. So, the establishing and creating of authority happens very automatically, the way we're programmed and conditioned. Through cues, somebody is giving a talk in a hall, microphone, has some reputation to herself of having done this for any number of years with a certain background of training, some books written, and the brain is in its mode of creating authority. And therefore not completely listening freely and openly to what is being said and to examine it for oneself, thoroughly, clearly, independently. And of course there is the equal tendency in us to become an authority for others. Very gratifying, has all kinds of conventional rewards. It's very superficial rewards, but we attach to superficial rewards of being acknowledged, looked up to, as a feeling of power, which are energy surges created by thoughts and images that people look up to me, respect me, like me, listen to what I have to say. All of this, if arrested and made something of, can produce energy for the human body. So this is this twofold thing, it's a threefold thing. Needing authority, creating authority, and wanting to be an authority. That's how one gets into fights, one authority against another, or rivalries. What is our relationship with each other? We can ask right now. What is it? To look at it. Looking up, creating authority, rivalry. I know stuff too, and I know better. All of these subtle strands, to light them up. So that the relationship is cleared of obstructions. Obstructions of wanting authority, rivaling authority, or fighting authority. That's the third prong. Having suffered much hurt and injury through other people's imposed authority, control. Some rebellion has built up, and it fights blindly. Anyone who appears to be in a position of authority becomes an object of combat, regardless of what the person says. I don't listen to it. I need to fight anyone who appears in some kind of an authority position. Topple him or her. Rid the world of authorities. There's great authority in this notion, and one finds out if one looks gently, openly, how authoritarian we all are, even if we believe to be non-authoritarian. We noticed it over many years after leaving a very authoritarian spiritual center, thinking just leaving that place rids and frees us of all desire to create authority ourselves. And only then noticing how deep this program is implanted in all of us. But at least there was some freedom to draw each other's attention to it and to listen to people who were pointing it out. Listen to it not immediately taking over what someone says, but examining it. Does he or she have something? Is there something? Let's look. Let's not immediately deny it or admit it. These are also programs. Immediately admit, yeah, you're right, because I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to appear defensive. So I admit it. Why admit it? Why defend it? Why fight it or deny it when there's this incredible possibility of shedding light by quietly looking, listening, opening up to the whole problem that has been brought up? Can we do that with each other? It's not easy because the reactions want out. They have tremendous energetic pressure to explode verbally. That's what we're finding out in group meetings and a retreat. How openly can we listen to each other? Say what we need to say. And watch it how we need to say it. With several people sitting there with accumulating quiet energy of attending, we can hear ourselves better. It's like as though we're producing a mirror for ourselves and each other in listening and attending quietly to what is being said and what I want to say as a response or reaction. So can we listen to each other, talk to each other as non-authorities? We said earlier, as no one special. Which opens up amazing possibilities for being in the flow of things, in touch with each other and with ourselves. Because the energies are freed from needing to be somebody in our old mode, to win, to dominate, to control, to be accepted. That runs deep, doesn't it? And the energy tied up in that runs deep. But not deep enough to not be exposed. It can all be exposed. That's the magic of attention, of quiet being, listening, looking, wondering, without resistance. Resistance having come to light and seen for what it is and does. When something is really seen for what it is and does, it dismantles itself. Well, I hear someone say, well, not necessarily. I can see the stuff and it goes right on. So let's find out what's going on when things that are seen clearly still persist. What is happening? Not thinking it ought to end, it ought to have stopped. What keeps something going? And watch our investment in it. Wanting those gratifications from being this way. I don't want to go too far. We have 7 days. Go into all of this. I just want to come to this last question of our conventional first talk. And that is, what is our relationship with each other? It's often brought up by people who come for the first time and by people who've been here for many times. What's my relationship with you, and how are you relating to me? In trying to grasp this question, I can't grasp it. Because when we're sitting here, listening to each other, freshly like the new snow, what is the question of relationship? We're just here, responding, telling, commenting, eating, drinking, sitting, walking, coming to meetings. We're here, or we're not here. You say something and I'll listen. I'm interested, but also, if we want to have words to denote relationship, I feel respect for what you have to say. Because I have no image of myself as occupying any special place of authority. So is that a satisfactory description of our relationship with each other? One of respecting each other? No matter what you have to say, I'll listen, even if it hurts. Even if reactiveness is triggered, well, that can be listened to respectfully. Respectfully means not trying to disown it or shove it aside, suppress it, or criticize it. Just seeing it for what it is, maybe a great obstruction between us. Can obstruction between us be respected? Feeling the harshness of imagery one harbors against another, which really has a hand in shaping the person according to that image. We're sensitive to what images are projected onto us, and may actually persevere in a certain role because of projections by others. So, one can really be in awe of the power of our programs and patterns of seeing and perceiving, not seeing each other, perceiving through filters, distorted perceptions, through powerful patterns past experiences have cast. One can be in awe of that power. Realizing it's not a simple matter to listen openly. We're held in bondage by all kinds of neurochemical, electrical, physical power patterns which affect our hearing, our seeing, and our reactions to each other. Last Friday there was on public television in the news hour, which some of you may be listening to. No, not in the news hour. It came later as a sort of recap of a conference that was organized in Texas. A different kind of polling people on certain political issues before the conference, and then the conference in which there was 3 or 4 days of talking, meeting in groups, having some experts then to bring questions to, and some political candidates for the presidency, responding to questions, and then polling these people again. It's amazing to see how the opinions had shifted. Just through a few days of being face to face with each other and discussing things. But what impressed me very much was one woman in one group where they're talking about, I think, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. It's one of the themes there. And what to do about it. And this woman said, you know, I have no economical problems. I live well. Things are going well for me. But one thing I've realized in meeting with people that things are not as simple as they seem. They're very complex. There's a big change for me. To be in awe of the complexity of patterns that hold us in certain reactiveness and impeded perceptions. All of us. So, respecting the power so that in seeing each other freshly there can be not just respect but compassion. Not blame or fault finding, but understanding through learning in oneself how powerful we're conditioned to think and react and see things about each other in a certain distorting light. Not just those politicians in Washington. So, does this give some new meaning to coming here and sitting quietly alone and with each other? Sort of unraveling of all the stuff that holds us and binds us, not through the effort of getting beyond, trying to reach the promised land beyond this stuff, but find out about it, shed light, without making a problem out of it. Seeing it together with the snow on the trees and the glistening flakes, the sound of crows, and 2 squirrels raiding those bird feeders. The first thought was, get away, this is for the birds. It's all here, it's all taking place. No one is doing it, it's all happening on its own accord. And we're an integral part of this unbroken whole. Can that be discovered in quietness? Not the noise of effort, but the quietness of looking and letting appear what's there and letting it be, come and go. In mutual respect, without making a big thing out of that either. We will end here for today.